President-elect Bola Ahmed Tinubu is appealing for unity after his victory in Saturday's election. Mr. Tinubu called for the nation to come together following claims by the main opposition parties, the PDP and Labour, that the poll was a sham. But so far, it doesn't look like his olive branch is working. The election has been mired in accusations of fraud and failure of the electronic voting system, and both the PDP and Labour are calling for the ballot to be rerun, alleging the results have been manipulated.
Well, for the last lap with us in the studio is the Professor of Communications, a Rise News analyst, and Deputy Dean of the Postgraduate School at Bayes University here in the nation's capital, Abuja, Professor Abiodun Adeniyi. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
On the program.
Great to see you, Prof.
Yeah.
Good evening, Charles. It's a pleasure.
Election has held. The president-elect has emerged. He's been given certificate of return. But we all knew there could be only one president, right? So there are winners, or there's a winner and there are losers. What has been the biggest shock for you in this 2023 election? Because we are seeing a lot of upsets.
Yeah, upsets, very interesting outcome. And of course, and somehow, maybe the biggest shock I would say is that the expectations, we had high expectations of INEC, that they were going to be above board, that the process was going to be speak and span, largely immaculate, because of the good communication that preceded the election. There was excellent communication in the pre-election stage, but in the actual election process, they dropped the ball, And now in the post-election stage, they are supposed to continue with good communication, at least to calm frayed nerves as a result of their failure, to upload the result in real time, from the polling unit onto their server, like they promised. Yes, technical hitches, these are plausible reasons, but of course you also need to be consistent with your message, to be appropriate with your message, and to be timely with it, especially in a system where there's huge trust deficit. And it's a system where we've had in the past suspicion around the electioneering process. And remembering that we're a growing democracy, and one of the springboard around which a democracy can grow is actually an election system that is credible, free and fair, that popular cliche, including transparent, and of course where suspicion will be largely eliminated. But we didn't achieve it this time, which is very, very unfortunate. And that's one piece in the jigsaw that is really very painful. And that's why we see opposition, legitimately complaining. But what do we do from here, really? I don't think that it's something that we cannot find a solution to. First, I think that INEC should just maybe provide an apology. It's a mark of courage if we can apologize. After apology, then provide explanations.
Yeah, but an apology would be tantamount to an admission of guilt,
Failure.
which could be, which you could use as evidence in a court of law.
But that may not be enough, really. I mean, I'm
Right.
not a lawyer, but that shouldn't be enough for them for the court to discount the election process. Apology is just an arrangement between them and the politicians. There is an agency of government, and they are humans after all. They did their best, But the argument here is that in a specific section, they made mistake, and of course, they are just admitting it. So admitting it is just saying that, okay, we have recognized this, but these are the amendments we're going to make. And what are the amendments? Like they said, they welcome parties bringing in areas where there have been infractions, and those areas will be looked into. That's the promise they gave. So it's just a continuation of the process, and of course, in attendance, in addition to that, should be also excellent messaging, so that the audience that is particularly aggrieved, can be assuaged, as the case could be. But again, it's also very important for us to emphasize the fact that the president-elect declared, as it is what it is at the moment. He has a lot of role to play in the matrix as well. And what is this role? It should just continue with a process of conciliation. It should be largely conciliatory,
Right.
Maybe to be moderated in celebration.
Well, in that regard, Mr. Tinubu has offered an olive branch to the opposition. The question is, in your assessment, is that likely to work? I mean, there's a winner-takes-all system. Already some members of the opposition are saying that he's offering an olive branch so that they don't contest the election.
Well, there are many ways to look at it, Charles. If you look at the history of our politics, there have been conversations, very strong arguments around why losers are particularly vociferous, always very trenchant, and determined to go the whole hog. One is that our system, our political economy is so problematic, such that people often profit a lot from politics, and people are essentially going to government, looking for leadership positions, not necessarily for altruistic reason, but because they want to better their lot. It's the main source of sourcing stupendous wealth. We have seen it around. So because of that, when they lose election, the assumption is that, okay, they feel they're going to be left out for the proverbial cake sharing. So people are naturally more determined, more vociferous in contesting it, ensuring that they get into power. That's one assumption. Against the background of that assumption, there have been arguments in political circles and amongst our past political engineers. I remember Omo Omorui, for instance, in the days of CDS, where we were trying to design this democracy, saying that there should be proportional representation to ensure inclusion, proper representation.
Right.
But of course, eventually we ended up with this presidential system, which is winner-take-all approach, parroting the American system, largely problematic and maybe slightly unfit for our own environment. And maybe that's why a winner should actually always consider a government of national unity. That will be all embracing, as the case could be.
Prof, I hate to interrupt you.
But stay with us, though. Yes. Don't go anywhere.
Well, as we know, the Independent National Electoral Commission has presented the certificate of return to the winner of the 2023 presidential election, which is Bola Tinubu, the candidate of the All Progressives Congress, and his vice presidential candidate, Kashim Shettima. Well, at the presentation of the certificates of return, members of the All Progressives Congress have been speaking on their victory and what the future holds for them.
I feel happy, excited for our party. I feel truly fulfilled for Mr. President-elect Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu for a victory well fought, for a victory that is not only his victory, it's a victory for all Nigerians. It's a victory for democracy. Because indeed you can see that we've all gone through a lot as a nation, as a people. But at the end of the day, we pulled through and we do not let naysayers, or people of low minds to bring us down. We need to commend, and congratulate INEC with all of the supposedly, little issues are there. They were still able to pull it through, and that's what is important. We need to keep this national democracy. We need to keep it on. That's the only way nations are built. That's the only way we can pass on things to the very huge teeming youths that we have in our country. And I want everybody to rise up. I want all of us to see this victory as a victory, not only for APC, but for all of us, all of the 18, 19 contestants, all of the people that have contested, and see it, and let us begin the healing very quickly, so that we can indeed form a government that will truly meet all of the aspirations of every Nigerian, and I think that's what is important right now. Oh, absolutely, oh, as in me personally, oh, absolutely. We have no doubt at all about it. It does actually, because what it confirmed to us is that Nigerians still believes in us, believes in our leadership, and we cannot afford to fail. We cannot afford to disappoint them, right? It's a big one, right? It's a clarion call, but we cannot afford to fail Nigerians at this point. And so we all need to roll our sleeves again, right? And see this unique opportunity for us to drive all of the economic agenda that we're talking, which is based on, the renewed hope. So, work is cut out, and from tomorrow or next tomorrow, we should start the work.
Today, after a very, very successful contest, a president-elect in the person of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu has been declared by the Independent National Electoral Commission to succeed President Muhammadu Buhari. Both of them members of the All Progressive Party, both of them great Nigerians who have worked so hard, who have crisscrossed this country to campaign, and I'm very, very proud that Nigeria is evolving.
What are you saying to everyone?
We are thanking everyone for participating. That's why I say it has been very, very competitive, from the primaries to the contest to today, the declaration. So I call on all parties to know that we should all support democracy. Our leader have said sometimes, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu is quoted as saying, in democracy sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, but what is important is for democracy to gain. I believe democracy has gained, and all parties, indeed all Nigerians should support this process, this evolution in another 4 years, we'll have another election. In another 4 years, who knows? It will be somebody else's turn. The electoral process has been very, very transparent. Improvement in laws have made it. The party primaries were fiercely competitive. There was acceptance, wide acceptance of all the parties of their presidential candidate. And like I said, it has been a very, very tough campaigning by all the parties and support of Nigerians. I congratulate President Muhammadu Buhari. I could thank all the security agencies, media, civil organizations, and the parties and Nigerians.
This is a dream come true for Nigeria. It's a dream come true for me as better. It's a dream come true for indeed every woman in APC. We've worked so hard, mobilized women in their millions, had to send out different materials at different times to see how we can reach down to the grassroots. It's been very, very engaging being at all the campaigns, speaking to women in their millions and encouraging them to vote for our party. Beyond this, we've had one-on-one consultations, stakeholders meeting with key sectors in society, and we're glad today that this has given birth to the next president of Nigeria, which is President-elect Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. We're proud of him. We know with him women are secured. We would have the front burner. We will be empowered, and even the grassroots women will be better off for it. Women, this is your time.
All right, so the next thing now is the formation of a cabinet ahead of inauguration day and all of that. What will you say as per the expectations of women to be at the federal cabinet?
So he has said already that the Federal Executive Council will be made up of 35% of women, and indeed all other positions, board, parastatals, 35% of it will be women. So women are hopeful, and we are ready to give our own portion to nation development.
It's not only exciting, but historic. You know, the last 72 hours have witnessed a lot of criticisms. The situation has been almost near explosive, but the truth is that INEC has done very well. There is no perfect election anywhere in the world, particularly in a system like ours where democracy is still fledgling. I make bold to say that the chairman of INEC and his team are the unsung heroes at this event. They stayed up several hours till we out of this morning to ensure that the finished collation, they announced the winner, and today we're here to collect a certificate. This is a testament to hard work, to focus, to consistency, to being deliberate, to being determined, and to having a passion to lead a people and make a change. I also want to salute Asiwaju Ahmed Bola Tinubu for this courage. My prayer is that God Almighty will continue to endow him with the needed wisdom and bless him with knowledge, and so that he can make that difference that he intends to make. That renewed hope that he has promised us.
All right, Your Excellency. Before you go,
yes.
There are these talks that the North has paid back its own part of the bargain by ensuring there is power shift to the South. What would you have to say about that?
Well, let me say what my colleagues and I decided almost a year ago, that the presidency must shift to the South. There must be something that informed that position. I want to thank my colleagues because they stayed very faithful to that promise. They also are the unsung heroes in this particular Nigerian project. They stayed with it, they kept a promise, and will continue to join hands together to build the future of Nigeria.
As you all know, our people know, Ondo people are progressive people, and we always at least be on the side of progressivism. And from the onset, who are the forefront of clamoring for a southern president. So we had to put everything we had to it, and we got support. That's why we were able to make it.
A lot of supporters and Nigerians will say that your ability to deliver your state to the APC is, something that, will go into the history books, because a lot of people thought that you were losing ground, your state, and Ondo State came out for APC, in very large numbers. What exactly was responsible for that?
Well, if people thought I was losing ground, I did not think so. I'm firmly on ground in Ondo State, and I knew that at the end of the day, we are going to deliver when it comes to percentage, the highest percentage for this process. And God has assisted us. And what is important really is that for us, this election is the freest election we have ever held in this country. And
the PDP and LP are disagreeing with you on that.
You see, the figures are there to show. It's not, this is an election that has not been padded. People who voted have been counted. We are not padded. This is not one that is not padded. That's where I see it. It's not one you throw millions of votes. You can see the candidates. Everybody won 12 states. It's never been like that before.
Before I let you go, we expected a call from Atiku Abubakar or Peter Obi, just like it happened in 2015 between Goodluck Jonathan and Buhari, but that didn't happen. This means that the nation needs more healing. What would you say at this moment to heal the nation?
No, I totally agree with you. And I know that the president-elect has set up committees to meet up with the gentlemen who contested against him for us to start the healing. And I belong to one of the committees. We are going to meet them, appeal to them so we can work together. So that's where I see it. Election is gone now, but we pray that we can work together.
Giving me this opportunity to first and foremost, let's thank Almighty Allah, who has given us the opportunity to see today, and that the election came in peace and we have ended everything in a peaceful manner. First and foremost, our party, the All Progressive Congress, APC, has worked very hard for this victory. It's a victory we were sure of because we knew what we were doing. We saw the way the other party, the opposition party, took their campaign and how they were connecting with the electorate. But we had a direct connect with the electorate, and they've seen some of the good work already done by the present administration. So the mandate they've given to APC now and to the presidential candidate of APC now, President-elect, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, is another continuation for the good job started by the APC administration. So for me, we saw this coming and we worked hard for it. And we pray that all hands must be on deck now.
But sorry if I be caught in. The APC went into this election divided, but it looked like the presidential candidate just tried to cement the APC just to ensure that there was the delivery of this, ticket. What would you say, as having been a member of the National Working Committee yourself, as to how the APC needs to unite forward so that you don't disintegrate further, especially those who are aggrieved in one process or the other, but who just are just laying back? How much support can the president-elect get from them?
Well, let me first of all correct you. I was not a member of the National Working Committee. I wanted to contest for the national chairmanship.
Okay, yes, you wanted to contest for the national chairman.
So you are mixing me up with somebody else who bears Saliu Mustafa from Adamawa. He is the Northeast Vice Chairman. I'm from Kwara Central, precisely Kwara North, Ilorin. So APC never went into this election divided. You could see that from the day we finished our primaries, we never had any dissenting voice, unlike the major opposition party that had almost 5 governors on one side against their presidential candidate. So if anybody tells you APC went into this election divided, the person is only insinuating. We never went into this election divided.
But your national chairman had another preferred candidate other than Bola Ahmed Tinubu.
He never told you that. If you are only insinuating. But the chairman has never come out to say this is my preferred candidate. We had a primaries and Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu emerged the winner of that primaries. So we never had the issue of some governors, some members of the party staying aloof from the campaign or setting their own agenda. No. So that, for the record, APC went into this election as a unified family. On the issue of expectation, Nigerians definitely will be expecting a lot from the APC as a family. All we are asking everybody now to do is, there's always life before and after politics. Politics is over. Now let's face the real aspect of governance. What touches on every one of us. We all operate from the same market forces. So with this, I will appeal to everybody. It's time for us to put all hands on deck. Let's forget about politics. Let's work together. Let's try and see how we can move the nation forward.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Saliu Mustafa. Senator-elect, how enthusiastic are you to get to the Senate? Just before I let you go.
Well, like you know, my slogan has always been doing things differently. I'm hoping I will get there to bring in some new innovations that would bring a vibrant 10th assembly and to do things differently again.
Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu is, I describe him as a man with an heart of gold. He's going to be an asset to us as Nigeria. And as you see, both from the speech they read after the announcement of the result and on the declaration, you can see message of hope for the teeming youth, message of hope about productivity, message of hope about national rebirth. And he has done it before. In Lagos, when he took over in 1999, refuse were being counted in terms of kilometers. Traffic was a serious nightmare. At the same time, you also see problem with the effectiveness of public service. Public finance management was also a serious problem. So he was able to re-engineer. And today, Lagos is not competing with any part of Africa, but is competing globally. So I see a man who is also a talent hunter, who is going to bring the best of the talent of the young, middle level and old people of Nigeria into the governance of our country for national rebirth, which we call the Renew Hope.
Okay, let's talk about Osun State. I mean, during this election, National Assembly election, there were lots of challenges here and there, and your party lost out, including yourself.
Lose out at the election.
Talk to us about some of that and how.
Lose out at the election. We know we are going to definitely challenge. The shenanigans of the PDP at the election. In many of the people in my constituency were chased out of their homes. There were a lot of cases of overvoting, harassment of voters, intimidation, ballot snatching, and so on and so forth. So we are cataloging all the anomalies, and definitely we are going to challenge that election. But it's also very important to address an issue, though you have not asked about people misinforming Nigerians about the status of the FCT. The provision of the Constitution does not say that somebody must secure specifically 1/4 of the vote in the capital territory. It is a purposive approach to interpretation of the Constitution. We say that in computing the 1/4 of 25 states, you must include Abuja as if it were a state. So that interpretation is mischievous. But of course, if they want to test a law court, that has not impeded INEC from declaring that election result. Yes, elections come with challenges, but where the law allow for election petition is that there will be electoral justice. So we want to appeal to Nigerians, just like in Osun, we are not taking law into our hand. Nobody should take the law into their hand. They should go and challenge the election if they have any doubt.
All right, just a little bit.
It's very interesting indeed, isn't it? The thrill of victory.
Indeed. And we still have with us Professor of Communications, Arise News Analyst and Deputy Dean of the Postgraduate School at Bayes University in Abuja, Professor Abiodun. Adeniyi, thank you so much for staying with us.
Thank you, my pleasure.
Your reaction, they couldn't hide it. Anyone in your shoes would do the same, wouldn't they?
Yeah, somehow. I think
celebrate the victory.
Yeah, and some of them, they spoke in a very, very mature way, And what struck me there is that the president-elect has constituted a committee to reach out to his fellow contestants. That's a good way to go, but probably may not stop them from actually resorting to court, which the president, President Buhari also addressed them, also told them to do, and there are so many ways this resort to court can help us, as a country. First, lawyers will tell you that it can help us deepen or strengthen our jurisprudence. And second, it gives some kind of legitimacy to the process, because there are still concerns in circles that with the controversy that trailed the election, yes, we know that there's no electioneering process that is not usually fraught with controversies. But of course, with this particular controversy, if at the end of the day, it goes through the judicial mail and it comes out either way, or whichever way it comes out, at the end of the day, we'll know that we have brought a closure to it through another important adjudicatory arm of government, So it's a welcome development, but it doesn't stop. The fact that they're going to court does not mean that processes should not be set up towards conciliation. Remember, I was saying it shortly before we went on that break that it's in the nature of our politics, the nature of politics really, and of course particularly to our own. That's why we've been having conversations in the past on how to do things. Should we adopt the American presidential system, or should we have a way to be ingenious, to be somewhat creative, ingrain aspects of our culture into our own democratic process? And that's why we've been talking about government of national unity. So losers, will not feel a sense of complete loss. There are ways in which you can include them into the political process, and of course winners, you also have a sense of magnanimity, and be modest, temperate, moderated in the way they celebrate the victory, and of course, in a way, they manage governance, as the case could be. So it's a continuing conversation. What it just tells us is that whatever position you belong to, whether on the winning or the losing side, think about the bigger picture. And what's this bigger picture? The Nigerian picture.
Well, I mean, talking about that bigger picture, I mean, what is your sense of what Mr. Tinubu actually means when he calls for his political opponents to come and work with him? I mean, is he inviting them to share power? Is he promoting a unity government, as you hinted there? Is he saying that the opposition will have a stake in his government, or is he saying they should accept defeat and move on, and that everything is okay when they are saying, well, we've got lots of evidence that this is an election that was marred by innumerable irregularities?
Yeah, but I don't think it's the last. It can be the last point that you raised. I think it's one of asking them to come and work with him, probably,
But that's unprecedented. I mean, it's not usual that
but work with him means a lot of things, Charles.
Right.
It doesn't mean that they should come and be, sit in the Federal Executive Council with him. Probably just give us some kind of believe in us, trust in us. We're going to find a way to accommodate you. If you cannot come to us physically, if you don't want to join us physically, we can also have your representatives being part of our system. Or of course, you can also share with us your wisdom, your intelligence. What are the things that you think, what are the knowledge, the information, the ideas that you have, the notions that you have, that you think we can add to us, to grow the system. After all, we are all Nigerians. We are all primarily working for the good of a nation and the entity called Nigeria and its future, as the case could be. So I think that's the idea, really. And that's the argument. I remember I also had ex-Governor Fayemi saying that.
He did say. He talked specifically about a
government of national unity. Yeah. And that was the kind of government that President Obasanjo tried to put in place in 1999. He tried it, in the wake of the military exit. But I don't know the extent to which he succeeded. He tried it again in 2003, where he tried to be integrative, bringing in people from other political parties. It's always a welcome development. Perhaps a way to resolve this winner-take-all mentality. Which is essentially an American system, but somewhat alien to our own culture. Where our system seems to privilege the holding of political office, much more than striving in the private sector, where we think that the only way to become is through the instrument of government offices. We're yet to become we're yet to divorce our mindsets, our work patterns, our peculiarity from that direction. Maybe until we get there, we'll still have to continue this conversation.
President-elect Tinubu did say today in one of his opening speeches, because I know he has given more than one today, he said, we have come a long way. And he in particular has indeed come a long way. From the famous Emilokon in Abiodun, it is my turn, to discrediting the policies of the Buhari administration, and the President Muhammadu Buhari, having to debunk those speculations and insinuations that there were cracks between both men. On the campaign train, at least 3 states, the President had to remind people that he was with Bola Tinubu, and said they've known each other for over 20 years, and that was not going to end. I'm laying the background for what one of the speakers said, politics is over, the party is united. He's even claiming they never went into the election disunited. But what does this mean for them going forward? What's that thing they say about failure is an orphan? Now they are victorious and everybody's happy, but is that for face value? Is it photo op? Can we really truly believe that the party is united and have the political will to move forward, leaving all of those politics behind? When they say politics is over, it's now time to govern.
But what I think is that it's always very difficult to separate main individuals, chieftains of political parties, from the character of the party. And of course, when you have characters or individuals who are very strong, their influence can always bear on the coloration of the political party or even the group, as the case could be. For me, I think the Asiwaju comes sometimes as a maverick. Somebody who can be very, very self-critical, somebody who can go for broke in every situation, somebody who can be gung-ho, let's get down to it. I don't want to care anymore. And we have seen it happening even in the build-up to the presidential primary, the Milokon declaration in Abiodun. Somebody who is relatively circumspect will not be that courageous to make that declaration. Remembering that sometimes diplomacy can work in situations, but of course that was not a diplomatic statement. But rightly or wrongly, it has sped up. So it gives a picture of somebody who can be a daring do, and it has paid him. So that's why we say it's a matter of style.
Right.
And of course, you may not know the style to privilege, in your attempt in life, to succeed. Styles are differentiated, variegated, but at the same time, you cannot make judgment on which one will take you to success. But largely, he has emerged now as president-elect. We are going to see more of those drama, more of those theatrics. Somebody who probably can be self-critical. I don't even know why I'm like this. You look at himself and attempt to. So if he can be self-critical, then of course you may not necessarily be too comfortable around him, because he can throw jibes and stones and sticks at you anytime. So we have to be expectant of that. Know that this man is probably not too given to diplomacy. He will tell it as it is.
He's blunt.
But he can be blunt, trenchant, straightforward.
Right.
But it may not be a disservice. It may not be a style that may not work. It just depends on the receiving end,
I suppose
how it is managed.
The question is whether he's blunt or abrasive. You see what I mean? There's a slight difference there. But in terms of
getting down to semantics,
in terms of reactions, though, I mean, is there a sense on the streets and on social media? I mean, you do a lot of research into these things, with all these accusations flying around that the voters and the Nigerian people are now accepting this result and this outcome, or is it a case of having to accept?
I think it can be both, really, and the election was hotly contested. This is the first time. I mean, there were so many predictions, but many of those pollsters point to the fact that we're going to have a close election. And when elections are very close, you should expect that the outcome to the post-election period will actually be tense. And that's why I said the victors now, the victorious people, they have a lot of work to do. They have to be conciliatory. This is not the time to throw words that will put people on the defensive, that will make people feel further pains, further irritated, particularly against the backdrop of the limitation that we have identified with INEC's performance, But it is what it is. This is where we are. And people are just receiving it differently. But human beings are human beings are what they are. They are largely amenable, to what they internalize, what to throw at them. And if you use your words rightly, you use your sentences rightly, you use your paragraphs rightly, your speeches are right, gradually and you stay on your message, gradually they might begin to see reason with you. And Nigerians are not too different. That's why we are often characterized as very resilient people, people who can just pull through situations and again get back to
we've got a couple of minutes. I know you don't like being
no, it's fine.
Because you're a professor and you like to sit there in class and shove it down their throats, whether they want it or not. But what do you see as the biggest challenges ahead for Mr. Tinubu, beyond the immediate challenge of defending his victory in the courts?
Okay, well, he has made a lot of promise. And if I were one of his advisors, I'm not applying for a job anyway, I already have a job. If I was one of his advisors, I would just tell him to be careful with promises, like listening to him this morning. It was very, very simplistic, I'm going to do this, I'm going to provide this, I'm going to, at that level, you have to be careful with those kind of promises, because, you do not know what you're going to get into. From the experience of people who have been in government, they've always told us about the X factor. You think it's a different picture before you get it, but when you get it, you might be seeing things differently, and circumstances might prevent you from achieving, those promises that you give in a simple note. And those are the promises that will be used to measure you. You'll be measured against the promises you get. So you should rather be careful with those promises. Perhaps provide a more holistic framework, and hope that some of the little simplistic things he's saying can fit into that holistic framework. So it's a matter of strategy and tactics, which I think that he will have some very competent advisors that will take him through. But now, beyond the celebration, it's just about focusing on the bigger picture, like we have said repeatedly, and he has to prepare early enough, not to wait for 6 months to give us a cabinet, not to wait for 3 months to give us a cabinet, but to move, like they say, hit the ground running.
But is it not too late to be careful with promises, given that there was a party manifesto, there were several campaign rallies, he went across the country, like he claimed, and in some states even twice. He's had interactions with Nigerians home and abroad in Chatham House.
But we're still giving more this morning.
It's not too late to be careful with those promises. There are so many promises in that manifesto.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Just stay with the ones you have given already. Don't ask for more.
I like that. Focus on those ones. That's a good note on which to end.
Thank you.
Prof, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Professor Abiodun Adeniyi there.